Most embarrassing thing you've ever said in a meeting?
I'm pretty sure I signed off a call with "I love you" more than once.
Not to your mum.
Not to my mum.
Welcome to the sofa, Gina Hood, freshly appointed CEO of LePub. How long have you been in now?
Thank you so much. I've been in about 6 months at this point.
Bloody hell, so fresh. So what does after work mean to you?
A lot of negotiation, generally. So negotiating toothbrushing, which toothbrush, negotiating which bath toys. I feel like I go into master negotiator.
You and I decided we want to base this discussion on career advice. There's a lot of career advice thrown around, and I know because I'm in recruitment, so I give it a lot. But I thought we'd ask one of the best to come in and give some solid career advice for people who are starting in the industry or people who have maybe been in the industry a few years and need a bit of a push. So why don't you tell us more?
I would love to. I'm definitely very passionate about career development, so I will try and restrain myself and not talk too much. A lot of career development advice tends to be based around skills or training or things you can get better at, but actually I think a lot of it's about mindset. So there's 3 areas that I'd love to talk around. One is thinking about your career very actively. So I think especially when you're younger, it's very easy to delegate out your career to other people, to think, oh, well, you know, my boss will deal with it, HR will deal with it. Whereas actually the only person who's ultimately in control of your career is you. And that doesn't mean over planning it, but what it does mean is having more of an active mindset about it. So thinking about what are the opportunities that you want to push for, where do you want to go, what are you doing in your everyday that you're enjoying or not enjoying, and just making sure continuously thinking about that. And as a part of that, I once did a mentoring session with the late, great Annette King, who sorely missed, who said to me, a really important thing to always try and find as a part of having that active mindset is career champion. So in your job, if you don't have a career champion where you work, you probably need to find someone else to work, because you're not going to be able to have that progression unless you have someone who is actively looking out for your career and where it's going.
I agree with that. I actually became a mentor recently, because I do think you should have mentors both in and out of work. So what you were talking about was championing you in work. I also believe you should have a mentor outside of work so that you can get a bit of perspective on what else is out there and how you can develop yourself with people who possibly don't know your situation in work.
That's exactly it. And I think you're right about looking for those opportunities outside of work. And what some people say you should try and look for is creating your own personal board. So thinking about what are the different parts of your life that you feel like you need advice on, because it could just be work, but it also could be thinking more about personal life, or what's that full suite of people that you need to help give you advice in the right places. Number 2.
Yes.
Don't fall into the comparison trap. So that is about run your own race. Don't be thinking about what other people are doing. A little analogy someone once told me, which helped me think about this earlier in my career, was we're all like little popcorn kernels in a pan. You don't know which one's going to pop or when. Everyone's going to pop eventually, but you don't know when it's going to pop. And people get too worried because they go, that person over there is doing really well. That person over there has got a better job title than me. And I think by thinking too much about progression in a very linear way in which you're comparing to other people, it actually stops you taking on those opportunities which may not be so obvious in terms of immediate progression, but actually give you really good experience later on. So don't compare yourself to other people. Just focus on what you're doing, and the rest will follow.
I love that. We're in a world of huge comparisons, and I don't think LinkedIn helps.
Number 3, someone much cleverer than me told me this, which was you need to flip the way you think about success. So most people think about success as, when I do this thing and I'm successful, then I will be happy. And the problem with that is then you set these arbitrary goals for yourself and you keep pushing happiness over this cognitive horizon, whereas actually it should be the other way around, which is do what makes you happy, and then success will come from that. And then naturally, if you're happy, you're going to be a better version of yourself. You're going to be working in a more productive manner. You're going to be experiencing new things. And if you do that, then the success will come off the back of you being happy.
I very much like that. I'm always telling my kids, lean into the stuff you're enjoying, whether that's subjects or GCSE choices or even after school sport.
And actually, when you say you enjoy, that's a really important bit, because we often end up defining things by what other people think we should be enjoying, whereas it should just be genuinely about what do you find fun.
What about range in your career, range of experience?
I think I'm someone who's very left brain, right brain. At school, I did a very odd mix of A-levels. I look back and I laugh now. I think I did chemistry, physics, maths, history, art. Very odd combination of A-levels, right? But I think at that point, I really wanted to keep that range.
You did
and that
5?
breadth. Yeah, pretty much.
Bloody hell.
So I wanted to keep that breadth. But then also my degree ended up going quite broad, my degree. And then I went into advertising, which is in itself quite a broad industry. And account management within that, also quite a broad discipline, right? Because it's all about where do your fingers go in all of the different pies. And I think I slightly struggled with that at first because I think especially in the 2010s when I started, specialism was quite all the rage at that point. And I kept thinking, oh my God, I'm not an expert in anything. You know, I'm really going to fall behind here. There's one thing that I'm really, really good at. I actually read a book called Range by David Epstein. It's all about how actually range is total superpower because it enables you to have lots of different experiences and then apply the learnings from those to a different scenario and give yourselves different lenses, different frameworks of looking at different situations and take those learnings so that it actually gives you a better and more holistic way of looking at things, which I think really helped that mindset of actually seeing that range and that generalism as being a good thing.
So if someone asks you to give something a go, your recommendation is just say yes and do it because you will learn such a breadth that you can use in your career later on.
100%. I think often those, back to my earlier point around, don't compare yourself too much because if you try and set down a single linear career path, you might miss those little side quests, which might not be immediately obvious for your progression, but actually are super useful for giving you different types of experiences, which later on then may be useful.
Yeah, brilliant.
So, for example, I actually, when I was in my sort of teen years, as I like to call them in advertising, used to quite often get pulled onto accounts that were struggling or just needed some cover for some reason.
Yeah.
So it wasn't that useful because, you know, some people would say, well, I'm on this account which has won all these awards, whereas I go, well, I stopped this being a complete fiasco and instead turned it into sort of an okay bit of work. About 5 years ago, when I was getting into more senior roles, I realised that the experience that I'd had learning that problem solving was incredibly useful.
Yeah.
So actually, what initially felt like a negative then rapidly became a positive because I realised I was able to use those skills later on, which weren't immediately obvious at the time. And I think also just not getting very stressed as well, because if you've been exposed to environments where quite a lot of things are going wrong, it then means that, well, God, you can always fix everything, right? Your day job is generally problem solving because by the time something gets up to you, it's generally quite bad, which means that that problem solving that I did a lot of earlier in my career, I've come back to be very useful for having that problem solving mindset.
All of this range will give you extra strings on your bow, right? And that is what we want in account handling. We want lots of things to be able to talk about, lots of different problems to have solved, lots of different departments to have experienced, lots of different clients to have spoken to. So range is vital, I think, in becoming a great account handler.
It is, because the one thing that you can guarantee with account management is variety.
So seeing range is very positive.
Seeing range is positive, yes.
There's a strange thing in our industry where everything's supposed to look effortless. And
yes.
I think you and I have talked about how showing effort is actually a wonderful thing.
I first experienced this point around effort at university where just a couple of times, you know, on occasion when I got a good grade or kind of did better than someone else, I noticed that people would sometimes say this thing to me, which was, oh, but you try hard. And I remember at the time being, I just so mind blown. I couldn't compute that they were saying that to me, that somehow implying that trying hard is a bad thing. I'm a scholarship kid. Like, I kind of have this psyche of making sure that I'm putting effort into things. I found it absolutely mind-blowing that somehow people thought that trying hard and putting in effort was a negative.
Like, if you think back to like the cool kids in the playground, they put no effort in. If you think about the boys that all the girls like, it's because they seem not interested. Like, there is a like weird coolness in not trying hard. And I think what you and I are saying is in the workplace, forget that. Putting in effort is a wonderful thing. Hearing you talk, I can totally see your athlete's mindset coming out. So you were an athlete in your youth, right? Tell me a bit more about that.
I did do quite a lot of sport. I think athlete sounds quite good. I might take that.
Take it, please.
I did heptathlons with a little bit of specialism in 800s and high jump. I am quite tall, which helped with high jump quite a bit. And then also a lot of netball. So I did love my sports.
Do you think there's a competitive mindset behind that you've taken into leadership?
Maybe competitive, not necessarily against other people, but competitive in the sense of always do your best. Because the thing you find with sport is you can be absolutely brilliant and then someone else is just better than you, and there's nothing you can do about it. So in a way, if you always make it about other people, then you're going to lose. Whereas if you make it about, am I jumping a little bit higher? Am I running a little bit faster? And being self-competitive, that's where I think I found it most valuable, because then you're going, how am I becoming the best version of what I do?
Do you think there are any parts of your, I'm going to keep calling it an athlete's mindset, that you wish you didn't have? Or do you find them all useful?
I find them generally useful. So for instance, when I used to do high jump, it's a tricky sport. The problem with high jump, because it's just you in the bar, that's it. It's you in the bar in a space of 30 seconds, that's it. And it is totally in your mind.
Wow.
But the trick is, how you win is to practice so much that you don't think about it. And that's one massive thing I've learned, is you need to get good enough at your craft that you're not thinking about it and it's almost instinct. Because when you overthink it, you get it wrong.
We've talked about parenthood non-stop on this show, but what I want to ask you today is, what's your actual take on whether parents in advertising are just surviving or whether we're all thriving?
The lens I try and put upon it is short term, medium term, long term. I feel like I am consciously sacrificing medium term enjoyment right now. And what do I mean by that? I mean, like going on particular types of holidays, being able to see friends a lot. But I think in doing so, that enables me to gain short term and long term. So short term, what do I focus on? I ask myself the question at the end of each day, not have I spent X amount of hours with my daughter, because I'll be depressed at the answer if not, we're all working. But I ask, have I had one insanely fun moment with her? So that could just be like a little game. It could be a moment in the bath. It could be a silly thing you're doing at bedtime with a book. If I have that one thing, that's actually enough for me each day.
Quality over quantity, right?
Quality over quantity. So look, yes, longer term, those things are great. I probably am also sacrificing that medium term of being able to see my friends, being able to do hobbies. Like hobbies, God, I'd love to do more hobbies.
What are they?
I know, but they're too far down the list. And the fundamental question when you get kids is, what do you prioritize? This thing or seeing your kids?
Yeah.
The answer is always going to be seeing your kids. So I'm okay with not being able to do as many hobbies right now, and I want to own that.
What's your biggest professional mistake?
Early in my career, thinking that long hours meant you were good at your job. I wasted a lot of my 20s in being in the office at 8 and leaving at 11 p.m. and I resent it. And I don't want anyone else to think that that's a good way of doing things.
That's it, Gina.
That's it.
You did it, genius.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. That's been a delight. What emoji do you use the most?
You know the one that's like this?
Yeah.
That one. Love that.
Oh.
Awkward.
Oh.
The awkward emoji.